just share the verse.
Can I do the screen sharing? Because I would also like to share some other stuff.
Yes, Mataji, you can. Thank you.
If I'm co-host, I'm not sure.
I have to. Yes, one moment. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, we will continue with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, and there will be now verse number 48. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tiraskrita vipralabda Shaptak Shipta Hatapi Nasyatat Pratikurvanti Tad Bhakta Prabhavopihi. Srila Prabhupada's translation. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Rishi Shamika also knew that the Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense at the feet of the devotee. The Lord can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. He thought within himself that if Maharaj Parikshit would counter-curse the boy, he might be saved. But he knew also that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses. As such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, then the devotees take very strong action. It was a personal affair, and therefore Shamika Rishi knew that the king would not take counteraction. Thus, there was no alternative than to place an appeal to the Lord for the immature boy. It is not only the Brahmanas are powerful enough to award curses or blessings upon the subordinates, the devotee of the Lord, even though he may not be a Brahmana, is more powerful than a Brahmana. But a powerful devotee never misuses the power for personal benefit. Whatever power the devotee may have is always utilized in service towards the Lord and his devotees only. Om Gyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimate Candramauli Swami Niti Namine. So, when I first read this verse, I was like, I have to speak about, how to say, forgiving others. And that's sometimes a very difficult topic for us. I'm sorry, I just silenced my phone because it gives all these sounds. So this is such a tough topic because many times it's easy to forgive when someone does some slightly wrong thing and maybe even come to us to apologize. That's easy. But when we feel that that some kind of injustice happened to us, which is quite an extreme thing, and maybe the person doesn't even realize that this action of his or hers affected us in a bad way, that it was some kind of wrongdoing, and what to do then? Because even in that case, according to this verse and some other verses of the scriptures, we should forgive, even in these extreme situations, because the devotees of the Lord are like that. And actually, this verse also about other aspects of the false ego. So here we can read about forgiving others. We can hear about protecting our bodies, which is also some aspect of the false ego, that how much we want to protect this false identification, this body. And also in the purport, in the end of the purport, we could read about that how much, what way we use those facilities which the Lord gives us as devotees. Because many times it can be so tempting to use it for our own benefit instead of the service of the Lord or the service of the devotees. So it's very much, this verse is very much focused on the topic of false ego, but especially this forgiveness is very much highlighted. And I thought that this time I would start from a bit far to get to this topic of forgiveness, because there are some topics which are so difficult for us devotees, and we see all these very high standards, and we try to follow these very high standards, but somehow we couldn't manage, and sometimes because even more difficulties. What I mean about this? So we hear that devotees of the Lord are forgiving even in such extreme situations. They don't protect themselves. Like we could see the case of Prahlad Maharaj, that whatever his father did to him, he just accepted it and didn't do anything to protect himself, just chanted the glories of the Lord. And we might fear that, okay, but how far I am from this level of devotion? How could I ever get to this level? Sometimes it's really frightening that it's such a high level thing. And how do we handle these kind of difficulties? Because we have to see clearly what is our current level and how to act according to that. There are some certain teachings in the scriptures which already show us that that Krishna doesn't want everyone to follow the same way of self-realization. For example, this is like, you know, there is the Varnashram system. So people in the different Varnas have some different way of self-realization. But also sometimes, just imagine like someone comes to the temple, new devotee, very beginner, and we just try to feed them with prasadam, with Mahaprasadam, like anything. But if someone is a devotee for like 20 years and still just eats prasadam, it's not the best mentality, because after some point, we also have to follow some kind of austerity, some kind of self-regulation, not just saying that, oh, this is prasadam, I can take whatever quantity I want, because that's not what should be followed at that point. So it's very important to see where we are. And the reason for that is if we don't see our level, then it might happen that we just hear these high level standards, like, you know, we have some conflict with someone, we approach our mentors and our friends, and they start to speak about, oh, you should tolerate, you should be forgiving, and you know, all these very much present and very true principles of devotional service. And we would like to follow, but sometimes it's not easy. Just in the past few days, I spoke to one of my friends who told me she has some kind of attachment, and she spoke to many devotees, and she also said that I know that they give good advices how I should just go and not be more detached, but I'm just not able to do that. So what to do then? Sometimes it's difficult to us to accept that we are not able to do something, but it might be tempting to pretend that we are following and actually not following it, and just sweep these anarthas under the rug and just pretend that, oh, I'm a good devotee, I'm a forgiving devotee, I don't have conflict with anyone, but these things just go under the rug into our subconscious, and it's working there. And sometimes we just don't know why it is that some certain qualities in some certain people, in devotees, are so getting on our nerves so much, and why it's such a bother. It's because those are the qualities which we cannot accept in ourselves, and it's inside under the rug, but we pretend that we don't have them. So it's still working there, but we are not so conscious about them. It's a little bit like, imagine that you have diabetes, and there goes some certain diet with that kind of illness. And you go to a party, and there are all the different kinds of foodstuff preparations, and there is someone right beside you who picks the same kind of foods which you can eat as someone with this kind of illness. And because you know what kind of diet goes with it, what are the symptoms of this illness, you can relate, you will notice that probably this person also have the same illness. So because we know the symptoms, that's why we notice them in others. And many times we say that in Kali Yuga, the last remaining leg of Dharma is truthfulness. And this is what helps us in our spiritual progress. If we can be truthful, we can be honest, at least with ourselves. Because if we lie to ourselves, lying about even about the false ego, so there is something already false, and we even lie about that. So that's a problem. And many times these anarthas under the rug, these just resurface in some other way. I heard some interesting example lately, that there is a Trappist monk called Thomas Keating, and he said, I will just read it, it's so deeply trenched, the false self, that you can change your name and address, your religion, your country, any of your clothes, but the false self simply adjusts to the new environment. For example, it can be that previously our self-value came from, we could drink more alcohol than anyone else in the pub, but there is a big change in our circumstances, and we just move into a temple and become a monk. So what happens? The urge is there, this tendency is there that I have to be valuable. So I have to find how I can measure my self-worth. So instead of drinking the most alcohol, I will be the one who is more severe in my fasting, because that's not another, the circumstances are different, but the tendency is the same. So I will find some way how I can just live with the same tendencies in a new dress. So if we want to, I heard this nice phrase that in order to be realized, we have to be real. And in order to be real, we have to be honest with ourselves. So we have to be honest about our shortcomings also, because that's the start that we can adjust ourselves and start to develop in bhakti. So we have to see our level now, And we also have to see where we want to get. So we have to see the goal and the way there. But mostly we have to focus on the next step. What is the endeavor now, what I can do in order to be a bit better for tomorrow? And tomorrow, okay, now I'm here, one step better than yesterday, but what is the next step today which I can make? And in this regard, I would like to read a few things. There is a book called the book called The Unspoken Obstacles on the Path of Bhakti. It's a book from Purnachandra Swami, and he, in one chapter, he writes about the difference between repressed emotions and sense control, like detached emotions. So I think I will share this because I'm not so good in reading, but this way you will also see. Okay, so here he says that the answer, this answered our first question. This first question was, which I actually mentioned now, that what is the difference between repressing the emotions or being detached from them? So he says that controlled emotions, as opposed to repressed emotions, means controlled according to one's individual capacity. Consider the following. Children can usually get away with crying, screaming, and stomping on the floor, whereas adults can't. A new Bhakta happily takes prasada up to the neck, but a senior Vaishnava is much more cautious. Vaishyas can bend the truth, but Brahmanas can't. To expect a Shudra or Vaishya to be as controlled as a Brahmana would mean artificial repression. Sannyasis can't run a business or embrace a woman, but a Grihastha can. In conclusion, repression can mean trying to control the senses far beyond one's ability. The symptom of repression is that a person begins a severe struggle and cannot maintain that level. Another difference between repression and control is that repression can be artificial, and in that case, there may be resentment or aversion. Whereas when the senses are under control, one is detached and perceives them as different from the self. So it's very interesting that sometimes when we lie to ourselves about forgiveness, we think that, I forgive that person, okay, no problem with me, but I hope that Krishna will settle this situation and he will give him what he deserves. And so it might happen that we still carry on some kind of resentment. We just lie to ourselves about it. So there is also a difference, as discussed in psychological circles, between suppression and repression. Suppression can be defined as dismissing or pushing away an urge or feeling, knowing the negative results of that particular urge or feeling. It could be simple, like pushing oneself to stay awake during the Bhagavatam class, or it could be more significant, like a brahmachari suppressing the urge to talk with women. If he cannot control himself, he will need to change ashrama. He may then suppress the desire to enjoy others' wives. Repression, however, means an unconscious restraining of emotions or desires. So it's very interesting that this is many times, so this is unconscious. This is more tricky. Strong feelings are pushed down in the subconscious regions of the psyche without knowing what is happening. As one would expect, tension gradually builds up until there is somewhat of an emotional explosion leading to uncontrolled anger, strange behavior, or neurosis. The dilemma is that neophyte transcendentalists experience so many material feelings, emotions, and urges that they often categorically reject them all to get a footing in spiritual life. I mentioned this in the previous chapter. This method cannot last very long, and one must learn to purify, dovetail, suppress, sublimate, or sort through material urges, emotions, and feelings. These techniques can be known by experience and observation of the mind. Ultimately, they can be known when the Lord gives inner enlightenment as a reward for sincere surrender in the performance of devotional service. So I think this part very nicely summarized what is the difference between the two, and it's important for us to see this difference because sense control is important. Krishna also speaks about it a lot in Bhagavad Gita. So it's not like we don't have to control the senses. It's not like we don't have to make endeavor, because this is how we develop that we have the desire, and this desire to be better for Krishna is so strong that although he will give the results, he will purify us, he will give all the results, but I have to make the effort to show him that I desire this development, this purification so much that I'm willing to do whatever is necessary to get the result. But the result won't come by the effect of my efforts, but it will come by the mercy of Krishna. But the efforts show Krishna that I really desire it. So we have to do the efforts, but we have to be honest with ourselves. What is it that I'm capable of? So, okay, after this this whole intro, let's see about let's speak a bit more details about being offended. Being able or unable to forgive. So actually, what is forgiveness? So Devaki Mataji defined it in his book as forgiveness is when I give up my right to hurt you for hurting me. And many times we think that forgiveness is about the other person. If it was right what he did, or if I should forget everything what he did or she did. But forgiveness is actually about ourselves. So when we go into resentment, when we don't want to forgive, that results a certain kind of attitude. It will result anger, it will result criticism, and it will very much be a hindrance in our devotional life. I like to compare this to like you know when we are sitting on the toilet in the bathroom, and at some point it starts to get smell bad, you know, starts to be a really bad smell there, but because it comes gradually, we won't notice it. So this is one thing. And the other thing is that we are more tolerant about our own bad smell than others' bad smell. But when we go out of the bathroom and we can breathe fresh air, we can feel that, oh, it's so nice. It was not good back inside the bathroom. So it's never nice to breathe something which smells bad, but on a subtle level, this is what happens when we have this resentful, critical, angry attitude and mood. So that's totally the same. It's just we don't see it. We cannot perceive it with our gross senses. That's the only difference. But we have to get rid of that in some way. And there is this famous quote from Nelson Mandela that resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. So forgiveness is about us, because because this resentment will really eat us alive if we don't get rid of it. And also, Devaki Mataji wrote in his book that forgiveness is about recognizing that staying resentful creates an active echo of the pain of the pain the offender caused. By saying that the awful offense of the offender did is beyond forgiveness, we give them the power to keep their offense alive in our heart. So we give the offender continued power over us. So this is a very, very strong reason why we have to get rid of resentment for our own self. Even if it's not about our devotional life, still for ourselves, this is the best that we can do, that not to prolong this pain. This is how we can get rid of it. And I read something nice, that we can raise our consciousness to such a high level that that the offense cannot reach it. So it's possible for us to be detached from this offense, from this pain. And how can we do it? So from humility, we'll develop tolerance. So humility is the basis of tolerance, and tolerance is the basis of forgiveness. So if we can be humble, then it will help us to be able to be forgiving. And it's also a nice reason why we should be forgiving, because if there is this mood of humility, we know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Trinadapi Sumicena, Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So if we can cultivate this mood of humility and tolerance, then this will also affect our chanting. And so this is like we are together in a hospital. You know, there are many of us patients there, not the doctors, and we have to understand a few things here. So actually, what makes us do this hurtful, this offending actions, these are the material modes of nature. So when we are hurt by others, it's not them, it's just, you know, also the material modes of nature force them to do some certain things. So they are also victims, just as we are. So sometimes we like to think that, I really wanted to act properly, but somehow I wasn't able to, because I was pushed like anything by some invisible force. But this is the same for others. And they are also victims. And another thing is that the doctors in the hospital, they don't blame the patients for, you know, coughing up different kinds of disgusting things, or you know, urinating in the bed, or whatever symptoms they do, because this is the nature of the hospital, that there are patients and they are seriously sick, ill, and these have symptoms. So that's just the nature of being in the hospital as a patient. And also, maybe for nurses, it can be some kind of burden to you know, clean everything after these things happen. But still, the patient is the one who suffers more. So when we forgive to someone, we might think that that I'm the one who is suffering more because I was offended. But the other person, due to his ignorance, due to this bad karma and whatever, as they suffer already because of that mood, but they will also suffer the consequences. So it's not like they are not suffering. And if we speak about forgiving, it's nice to also mention a few things about Krishna. because sometimes we think that, oh, we are such victims of these offensive behaviors. But imagine the situation of Krishna, that there are so many living entities who just turned their back to him. And not just once, not just when we came to the material world, but day by day, on a daily basis, from moment to moment, how many times we choose illusion and Maya over Krishna. And he forgives again and again and again and again and again. So he's the personification of forgiveness. And why is it relevant for us? Because, you know, he sets such a high standard that, oh, I'm not able to follow it. But it's relevant for two reasons. One reason is that he sets the example. Oh, I didn't, I wanted to show this verse. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that, no, this is not the one, chapter 3. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that, for if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing the prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. So Krishna is doing so many things that he can be an inspiration for us. And we should follow these examples because it's also good for us. And the other thing why it's relevant for us that how he forgives is because he forgives our faults and mistakes. So we should remember that. And he said there is another verse in Bhagavad Gita which expressed how deeply he thinks, how deeply he forgives. He says that even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. So it's obviously not about when someone makes a mistake again and again and again and could do any other way, but thinks, oh, whatever, I cannot do it, no problem. Krishna will forgive. So this verse is not about that. This verse is about when we try our best, but somehow by mistake or by our weakness, we are not able to follow what is right. And he says that even if we commit the most abominable action, so this is one very extreme on the bad side, he is to be considered saintly. So this is the very extreme good side. So this is the verse which really, really expresses Krishna's forgiveness. This is how deep his forgiveness is. And maybe we won't be able to follow this, this standard, this level of forgiveness, but we should get some inspiration from it. And to speak a little bit more about his forgiveness, I heard a class about his forgiveness the other day, that Krishna is always taking the essence of our actions. So sometimes it happens that the intention is good, but the action is bad. And there are so many examples in throughout the Bhagavatam for this. For example, there is Bhishma Dev. He was fighting on the Kuru side, but he did this with the best intention to follow his vows. And he was attacking Krishna, but he did this fighting with Krishna in a mood of service. Also, for example, the wife of Vidura offered to Krishna a peel of the banana. How, you know, offering a peel is just, it's some kind of mistake, but the intention, the mood was behind it was right. And the same with Sudam, who offered this small palmful of rice. And it also happened that there was one lady who so eagerly wanted to see Lord Jagannath that he stepped on the shoulders of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I could just list all these examples. And Krishna takes the intention. He doesn't take he doesn't pay attention to if the action was wrong, because the intention was good. But sometimes it happens that the action is good and the intention is bad. So, or at least not so good. For example, Ajamila, he chanted the Lord's name, not because he cried out to the Lord, but because he was calling his son. Still, the Lord took the intention. Or Putana, he was going to kill Krishna, but he breastfed him, and Krishna took the action without the intention and gave him this high position of a mother. So even if the action is right and the intention is wrong, or the other way around, because one is valuable for Krishna, he just takes that and ignores the other and forgives that. But sometimes it happens that both the action and the intention is not good. And in that case, when the devotee realizes that, oh, it was not good, and asks for forgiveness, then Krishna forgives. Sometimes there might be some tests, there might be something, or the forgiveness comes a little bit later, but he forgives. Even if we just admit our mistakes, then he forgives. So we can get some kind of inspiration from his example, because many times we desire his opulences. Oh, I wish I could be that beautiful, or I could be that powerful like Krishna is, or I would have that much knowledge, etc. But how many times we fear that I desire his austerities, his renunciation, because that is also an opulence of him. So let's try to get some inspiration from him. And as ending, I thought that it would be nice to touch also some practical things on this topic, how we can be more forgiving. So first of all, we have to realize something really important, that when we are resentful, this is our own problem, not the offender's problem. So there are some people who think that, oh, some kind of offense happened to me, and immediately looks for the offender, who is at fault. But when someone is more elevated, then he will realize that, okay, some kind of offense happened to me, but this is due to my past actions. This is because of my bad karma. So actually, I'm the one at fault here. But this is also not the topmost level. There is something even higher than that, when we can realize that, okay, some kind of offense happened to me, and this is Krishna's mercy. This is a gift. How I can use it for my benefit, to purify, to learn from it. So that is the topmost, and we can choose which one, which category we would like to be in. But it's important to remember that to be offended is a choice. This is a choice we make, and it is not a condition inflicted or imposed upon us by someone or something else. So Devaki Mataji has a list on how we can get rid of this resentful mood, how we can be more forgiving. And actually, this is the same method, whatever we would like to develop. So the first step is that hear about the importance of forgiveness. So hear about why it's important to be forgiving, and what are the consequences if we are not forgiving, and what are the symptoms of not being forgiving. So it will give motivation, and it will help us recognize the symptoms. And I remember that I've read one of her books, Devaki Mataji's books, where she wrote about the different symptoms of envy, and towards senior devotees, peers, and junior devotees. And I remember it was really an eye-opener for me, because till then I thought that I have some rightful feelings about how faulty others are. And when I read about it, I just realized that, oh my God, I'm so envious, and I didn't even notice it because I didn't know the symptoms. And it was really, really uplifting in the sense that from then I could realize that, oh, okay, it's not his fault, not her fault. It's not like he is such a pretender devotee, but actually the problem is with me. And I also realized that, oh, but I'm not able to change this feeling. This feeling just comes. And I could start to pray to Krishna to help me, because I realized how fallen I am and how hopeless situation it is, that I'm not able to change this, but he will be able to do it. So it's very helpful when we read about the symptoms, so we can recognize it. The second point is to desire to get rid of this tendency. It's also important because we sometimes we know that, okay, I have some kind of fault, I have some kind of bad mentality, but whatever, others should love me the way I am. So we should desire to get rid of this. The third point is that let's be more introspective and honest and sincere. So what are our motivations? And the fourth is that catch ourselves doing the wrong things. So at first, maybe it will be like I'm doing the wrong thing. And after some time, I realize that, oh, it was something wrong. And the next time I will realize it a bit sooner and a bit sooner. And after some time, I will realize it at the point when I can make the decision. And maybe even with realizing that, okay, now I should act in the right way, but I'm still not able to do it. But at some point, by practice and practice and practice, I will be able to do the right thing. And I will notice it even before, and I will be strong enough to do the right thing. And yeah, the fifth point, no, connected to this third and fourth point, there was one interesting thought which I've heard about, that a devotee is capable of stepping back a little bit and not identifying with these qualities, like, observing it from the background and saying that, okay, it's not I'm angry, but I feel in an angry way. Maybe it's not so obvious, but I hope you can understand the difference, that I don't identify myself with anger, or I don't identify myself with this resentment, but I just consider it as a there are these contaminations on us. So being separate from these feelings, these tendencies, and if I'm able to observe it, then I will be able to see the effects and get motivation that, okay, I don't want these effects, so I want to change this. And it will be easier to accept that I have this fault if it's not me that I'm at fault, but this is some kind of contamination on me. And also it's easier to work with it because it's like because there is no identification. It's not like I have to cut off my arm. It's just I have to wash it. So this is a difference if I don't have to get rid of part of my identity, just something around it. So the fifth point is we should cry out to Krishna, who in a hopeless mood, and beg for his mercy. And the sixth point is that Krishna's mercy will be the thing which actually solves the problem. And yeah, these are the steps. And again, back to why I started this class in the way I started, is that many times we might feel that, okay, I'm not able to just forgive and forget everything, but we should see that what is it that I'm capable of now? Maybe to just find some ways how I can channel my bad feelings, my hurt inside. Because sometimes when we are speaking to a friend, to a mentor, or sometimes like expressing it in a poem or through some music, bhajan or something like that, or writing a journal, these things can help us channeling out these emotions which are hurtful inside. But if we lie about them and just suppress them, that will cause problem, because we want to reach those high standards, which maybe we are not on that level. But always there is something which we can do. And one very, very short last point, that when we have association with non-devotees, it can be a big obstacle in the mood of forgiveness, because in that case, we absorb such a mentality, such a selfish, self-centered, I would say, self-centered attitude, which is an obstacle in the way of forgiveness. So although this may not seem so connected, but there will be obstacles in forgiveness if we continuously associate with non-devotees. So it's just some extra thought. Okay, I finished everything which I wanted to say. So we can continue with questions and realizations. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Dear devotees, a request to turn on your cameras if you can, please, to make the session a little bit more interactive. Yes, it's time for Q&A. So please, you can ask questions by raising a hand, or you can put in your questions in the chat window where I can read it for you if you're in a situation where you cannot talk. So any comments, questions, realizations, appreciated. Oh, we've got one hand raised by through the Mataji. Mataji, please go ahead and ask. Mataji, you can hear us? You are on mute if you're talking.
Hare Krishna, my obeisances to Mataji, Prabhuji, everyone, obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. As I always say, I'm very new to this. I recently joined the classes. I really enjoy it. And today's classes is most important one for everyday life. And I touched on the last point, what you said is about association with non-devotees. How can we deal with that? And because we live in society where you know, you day in, day out, every day you have association with non-devotees, either personal, professional, you know, even with neighbors, or in every step of the way. So it is very difficult to let go of certain things and forgive and forget. And it is, I personally find it very hard. Since I joined Krishna consciousness, I have been, I would say I'm 90% better, not 100%, but 90% I'm there, and I'm just putting Krishna in the middle and trying to deal with the situations. But if you can share more light on that, I would appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for your question. I think it's a very good question because many times it's a difficulty. Obviously, those are very fortunate who can live only with devotees, but most of us are not in that situation. I remember when I had my first my first personal discussion with Guru Maharaj, and I asked something about this topic. And at that time, he started to make a difference between giving association and receiving association. And that's the main point here, I think, because many times, we just have to do our shopping, or we have colleagues, and it's not possible to just give up everything of that, but it's possible to give our association, give our values to others, even if it's some kind of philosophical point, or just behavior, just our behavior, or in the form of prasadam, but give something of Krishna consciousness to others. On the other hand, when we are on the receiving end, so we receive the association of others, that's the problem. Because when we imbibe a materialist value system, then it will be an obstacle. And also, I've heard that what it means to, the difference between giving association or receiving association. There are these 6 points of loving exchanges in Nectar of Instruction. So giving prasadam and receiving prasadam, giving gifts and receiving gifts, and reveal our mind confidentially, and inquiring confidentially. So actually, when we do this with non-devotees, that is receiving association. For example, sometimes it happens when, and that's something we really should be careful about, when we have some kind of conflict, for example, with a devotee. And at that time, we just want to really, really speak it out. Whoever comes in my way, I just want to let it out of myself. But the problem is that when this person will be a non-devotee and starts to give advices to me on a topic how to behave with devotees, that's a problem. Because even if we don't agree with whatever we hear, hearing has such a power that it will do something in our mind, even if we don't notice. So these are the things which we should be really careful about, that not to receive association. I don't know if it was helpful or not.
Yes, thank you very much. I do agree with, and what I do that every time when I have disagreement, whether it's family or friends or neighbors or in a work situation, I try, because I started reading Gita quite a lot, Bhagavad Gita. I read one verse every day and try to learn. So I do remember some now. So I keep quoting them from Gita verses, that this is what it says in our scripture, this is what it says, and this is how I feel. So okay, we agree to disagree. I am very, very angry afterwards that I have caught myself in that situation. But then I just keep thinking about Krishna consciousness, and I take myself out of that situation. And slowly, it takes time. It does take time for me to forgive and forget a certain situation. But I am trying very, and yes, I will remember now those things that what you said. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shri Devi Mataji.
Yes. Please go
Hare
ahead.
Krishna. Thank
Hare
you
Krishna.
very much for yet another wonderful, brilliant, analytical class that is so many important points for us to, grasp, because as you rightly said, all these things underneath the layers that we just sweep under the carpet. So as you were speaking, I was just thinking, this is like an eye opener, you know, your class is like an eye opener. And there are so many anarthas that I have not even addressed. I'm not even aware, and it comes out in certain interactions. And just recently, just a few days ago, some things happened, and in the conversation, I came to realize that I have been very judgmental, I have been dismissive, I have been not very respectful, just because the other person is non-devotee. And they were very nice enough to point it out in a nice way to me. They were more gentle, respectful, and what to say, very much more conscious of their actions, their behavior. And to me, it was like, wow, just because I'm a Krishna devotee doesn't give me the right to misbehave with others who are not Krishna devotees. Everyone is ultimately Krishna's devotee. They may not know it. So I was just wondering whether you have some thoughts on this topic about how we must even interact with non-devotees in as Krishna conscious a way as possible. If you can just, share some tips about this, because we automatically feel what we can talk with them, what we can say to them. They don't know anything. There's a subconscious bias.
Mhm.
So just wondering if you can share some tips about how to handle such conversations and situations.
Ooh, it's a good question, and not an easy one. So first of all, yeah, it's very nice what you said, that we have to be respectful with everyone. I remember when I read about respect, and even like, in Krishna consciousness, we should be respectful even towards some kind of objects, like whatever we use in the service of Krishna. So what to speak about living entities. And it's just always a matter of how we show this respect, because obviously we won't bow down and pay full obeisances in front of a non-devotee, and even in front of beginner devotees, because it can be confusing. So yeah, it's easy to know what we shouldn't do, but many times I experience that everyone is on certain different levels of understanding, even if it's about Krishna consciousness or just about daily life. And somehow it's nice to be sensitive about it, how to understand what is the other person's level, because that's the level which they can relate to. And some people, for example, there are some people who are non-devotees, and they appreciate Krishna conscious philosophy and Krishna conscious these pastimes, and like to hear about these. But there are those who are sensitive about, they want to push some kind of religion onto me, and I don't want to believe that. Please just leave my freedom. But even in that case, there are those who appreciate like some stories, who have some nice, what we can learn from them. Or there are those who appreciate when we behave nicely with them. So there are so many people who appreciate prasadam. But even there are those who don't appreciate even prasadam. Maybe you remember when I think we already spoke about my dad. For me, this the biggest Easter celebration was when he liked one cake which I baked. So yeah. So there are those who don't appreciate even that, but it's not an effective preaching to speak about something which they are not able to accept. That's for sure. But lately, I participated. I don't know. Probably you heard about Karuna Care, Ramboru Mataji's I don't know, organization or something. And in their courses, they very much emphasize many times the importance of listening. And I more and more value this thing, because this is how we can get something, some information about the other person. Obviously, I don't want to imbibe their value systems and their mood, but to understand where they are in philosophically in regards of the modes of nature. And if I understand what is their nature, what is their mood, then I can relate to them better than if I just start to speak about Krishna consciousness, which they are not so receptive for. And I think this is something really valuable to understand, that even if I'm a devotee and he's not a devotee, it might be beneficial for me to ask about him and inquire. And also because this is also one point, that we are so eager usually to speak about ourselves. So it already gives some good impression. And meanwhile, while he's speaking about himself, I can get some information that what he might be receptive for, and then give that kind of thing. At least this is my understanding, but I'm sure that you have so many experiences about this, because you are such a nice partner in discussions.
No, not like that. It's just that now, at least in the past 15, 20 years, I have lived only with devotees. I've not had really occasion to interact so much, except when going out on the streets, giving books, but that's just 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and that's a different flavor completely. But when you have to be in conversation, like social, setting, when you have to have prolonged contact with someone, they are not devotees, they are not Krishna conscious, and you are, knowing the value of Krishna consciousness. And my whole mood is how to help others become Krishna conscious. So I don't know whether my nature has become very heavy because of this preaching mood, of trying to give Krishna consciousness, trying to, your human form is so valuable. The human form of life is so valuable. If you do even just a little service to Krishna, Krishna never forget. Well, all and all. This is my one chance with this person. I may never see them again. And so on and so on. And then the whole thing becomes about how to give Krishna to this person. You know what I mean? And the other person may not even be interested. They may not even, they'll be thinking, what is this woman talking? What is this woman saying? Why can't she just be normal and talk about the weather and talk about politics or talk about sports that I am interested in? And she's talking about all these. Sometimes it goes very nice. For example, I'll tell you, I was traveling through Germany, and one attendant who was helping me with luggage, he started talking. He's saying, oh, you Hare Krishna, I'm Jesus, and this and that. And he started telling the whole thing. He knew everything that is going on in the world today, just like. So that was very nice. The next place where I had a layover, I was trying, hey, I'm a Hare Krishna. Oh, he was very nice, very helpful, very nice. And I was trying to say, oh, no, 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 I don't believe in all that. I don't believe in God and everything. And I said, oh, he was a young man. I said, oh, you have parents? And he said, yes. I said, do they have parents? He said, yes. I said, so they have parents. They have parents. Who is the original parent? So you have an eternal father and mother, Radha Krishna. Oh, I believe in evolution. I said, we also believe in evolution. We have evolved to reach this human form of life. And so he wasn't buying any of that. I could see all that, it was not, really going down well. So I gave up. I quit talking about that. And finally, I gave him a little leaflet, which is the Slovenia temples, that little leaflet. Prabhupada, the first generation of disciples are there, on that leaflet. And I said, here, take this, come visit our Slovenia temple. He looked down. The words were forming in his mouth saying, no, thank you. But he looked at the picture and he said, thank you, and took it. I don't know, maybe Prabhupada's picture or something. But you see what I'm trying to say? That my whole mood is how can I somehow or the other connect him somehow to Krishna. And I don't know whether that comes across as very heavy and preachy, to people if they just meet me socially. So just wondering about that, whether that's inappropriate or what. I don't know.
I think you are a much, much better preacher than I am, so I'm a bit embarrassed to say anything. But
Vinodini, you're a much better preacher than I am. You're very analytical. You have much more scholarly knowledge than I have, seriously. And you're able to quote the proper, and you're very well read also. So you're 100 times better preacher than I am, honestly.
I mean, when you are preaching, it's most likely about relationships. So if you start to speak to someone, usually they are not really interested in philosophy itself. But when there is relationship, so then we can move towards the philosophy. And I'm not really good with with relationships I'm good with those whom I know for a longer time. Anyway, what I wanted to say was that I think establishing the relationship might be a good point. It's just when you meet someone for 5 minutes, it's not so much time for that. But obviously, always there will be people who will be against God and Krishna consciousness. So it's not possible to preach to everyone. And there are those who can connect to Krishna through his material energy. So if I've read about it that if we just lift them up to from the lower modes to goodness, mode of goodness, that in a sense it's not preaching because the modes are always changing. So he can again fall back down. But this is at some point. Sometimes this is all what we can do. So maybe just praising how beautiful nature is and just mentioning that, oh, God so nicely created this sunset because the colors are so beautiful together. And maybe we just mentioned God shortly, but praising the nature, most people can relate to it. So sometimes this is all that's possible, according to my understanding. So finding what others can relate to, because sometimes they are not on a level that they could be receptive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji, for a very... So, Revati Mataji, you have raised a hand, but I'm just conscious of the time. We are 10 minutes past 2. So if I have to drop, but if Mataji is okay, then I can pass her the host rights and we can continue the session. So please forgive me for that.
No problem. Thank you so much for your help there now. So I have time if others would like
Mataji. So Revati Mataji, please go ahead and ask your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dinanath Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru Maharaj. All glories to all assembled devotees. Very deep class, Mataji. I have one question about not forgiving. Right. So we think that we have really forgiven, like whether it's a relation or any association, but we have not really forgiven, because you mentioned about anger, resentment, right? Sometimes we have still the resentment in the heart, but we think we have forgiven, but it's not really. So how can we let go this resentment in the heart? You have mentioned like we need to come to the higher, our consciousness, we should bring it to higher consciousness so we can apply humbleness, so we can come out of this resentment, like, disappointment, anger in the heart. So how can we practically apply this humbleness here so that we can come out of the resentment, which is in our heart, deep in our heart?
Mhm. Yeah, I suppose the first thing is that we have to recognize that there is this resentment, because until this is in the subconscious, then it's not really possible to do with anything with it, because we don't even know that it's there. So the first thing is that we have to recognize it, and for that it's important to hear about this topic. So it's there was in this list which I mentioned. The first point was that hearing about forgiveness and hearing about the effects of resentment. It's always important, even if we don't notice any signs on ourselves now, because that helps us to notice the smaller things. So if we notice that, oh, okay, there is some kind of problem, then one thing is that we are going through this this list, but on a more practical level, I think the key point is how we can channel this feeling. And there are some these points that that are there that I already mentioned, like speaking to a confidential friend and just share whatever our feelings are, not in a critical way. So obviously the goal is not to criticize the the offender, but the goal is to speak out our feelings. So it won't be a burden for us. We won't carry it all the time. And another thing is that sometimes, actually, Sridevi Mataji reminded me that I left out an important point, that sometimes we can go to the offender and reveal that whatever you did, it was painful for me. And sometimes it's because the offender may be not even aware of our pain and that he or she did something wrong. And sometimes it happens that because, when we are offended, it can also, I mentioned the intention and the action part, but it's also true for us that sometimes the action is which causes the pain, and sometimes the intention. But while Krishna knows the intention, many times we don't, and we just assume that that we know the intention, and maybe the intention is something totally different. And so sometimes I don't mention that it's all the time a possibility, but sometimes going to the offender and reveal that I felt such and such way when you did this and this action, it might be helpful, because sometimes it just is just miscommunication, but sometimes it's also not possible. Prayer is also a very, very powerful tool, and praying for an understanding, for strength, for forgiving. But I remember there was a time in my life when I just had this realization that it's also helpful when we can pray for the offender. And it might seem very difficult, but just imagine that if you pray for the other person so that he will develop in Krishna consciousness and whatever. So we can pray for so many things. But if the other person develops and can relate to others more easily in a nicer way, that's beneficial for the person, him or herself, but also for me and for all the others around us. So it's not like, oh yeah, that person did something wrong to me, and I would like to reciprocate with something good. And how unjust this is. No, because this will also be beneficial even for me on a long term. So we can also pray like that. And while praying for the other person, our attitude also changes, because many times it's kind of a service to pray for someone. And when we serve another person, we will develop some kind of humility, some kind of loving, serving mood. So it can also be helpful. And sometimes it just takes time. It's also there that it's not like I decide today that, okay, I will forgive, and from tomorrow there will be no problem, because sometimes it takes time, because there is some kind of wound inside, and we have to digest that too. But being always conscious about that, what this humility, not humility, what this forgiveness is about. And again, just as a reminder, because lately I just realized that these definitions are so important. Srila Prabhupada so many times defines words in his books, and at first I didn't realize that so many times we understand words in a different way. But I really liked this definition from Devaki Mataji, that forgiveness is when I give up my right to hurt you for hurting me. So actually, this is like giving up revenge. So accepting that, okay, this happened, I cannot do anything about it. I won't be able to change the past. This is forgiveness, that I just let go of the past. And we have to remind ourselves again and again for these things, because we tend to forget these. Because in this materialist society, forgiveness means a different kind of thing, and we just go with the flow. Sometimes that understand words in the same way. It's there for others. So yeah, this is. I don't know if it was helpful or not. Sridevi Mataji, would you like to add something to this?
No, I think you've given a very comprehensive answer. The only thing I would like to say is that forgiveness for us as spiritual people is supposed to be the first Vaishnava quality. That a Vaishnava practices forgiveness. This is his topmost quality. So for us, it's really important to understand the art of forgiveness. And I think this is where we need to do a lot of work. That's all I have to say.
Yes, you reminded me this class which I've listened to about forgiveness, and it was from Radhikaraman Prabhu. He had a 3 classes seminar about forgiveness, and he spoke about that this is the quality, forgiveness. I think it's also connected to humility. So humility, tolerance, and forgiveness, this is what makes other qualities valuable, because if we have the other qualities, then I think he spoke about these opulences, Krishna's opulences, like beauty and fame and power. So if we have those without humility, without forgiving, then these other qualities become even dangerous. And that was really an eye-opener, that how important this quality really is. So thank you for reminding me that.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. I really like what you said, the last point, pray for the offender. Because unless, like, other person, he develops that Krishna consciousness, because we also exchange that energy from them. So unless the other person really becomes Krishna consciousness, our resentment in the heart will not go away. Because I personally experience, like, yeah, when we forgive, but if we go and to the offender, if we tell them that, this is what it's really bothering me, but still if they continue to do that, that resentment will not go away if we continue to encounter the same situations. So maybe praying for them so that, if they become Krishna consciousness, so they can actually help us, to go that, help us to relieve.
Yeah.
Also, we also see, like, my personally, I also trying to see, I'm trying to get away from that situation. I'm not trying to associate with those, if it's like relations or anyone, but also it leaves unhappiness because you're longing for that association and they are not ready to change, and you're trying to go away from that association. So it's also like little bit, because still you're longing for that association. It also leaves some unhappiness in your heart. I don't know if I am able to express that point clearly.
Sorry, this last point, can you explain? I think I somehow I didn't understand.
If they are not ready to change, if they're not
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
qualities, and we are trying to not associate with that, association, not take that
Yeah.
association.
Yeah, that's for sure, because sometimes, there are these two ways of approaches, that when some kind of offense, some happens to us, someone hurts us again and again and again. Sometimes we can approach it in a way that, okay, this is purification for me. So if I can tolerate, that's okay. Obviously, we are not speaking about abusive things here. It's just the general thing. But sometimes it happens that we cannot tolerate after some time, and it's also okay. And in that case, and this leads back to the first point, to know if I'm just suppressing it or if I can tolerate it. So I have to be really honest with myself, because if I cannot tolerate it and still try to tolerate it, then there will come anger and there will come criticism and all these Vaishnava apparatus, which are quite damaging to our own spiritual lives. So in that case, it's better to leave the situation and just have a respectful distance, because from the distance it's easier to be respectful.
Yes.
But yeah, so we have to be really honest with ourselves in these things. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, because
Thank you so much for your question.
thank you very much. Very nice class. I need to listen again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sridevi Mataji, you...
Yeah, I'm not asking
Okay.
for myself. I'm asking for Olga. There's a question in the chat. If you like, I can read it out to you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, she says, sorry, of course, offering her obeisances. Sorry, I cannot speak now. My question is how to define forgiveness. One thing is to give a hard feeling away. But what about learning lessons and avoiding situations that hurt us or harm us? I think you answered that through Revati's question, but just...
Yeah, I also think, because this definition I've read again, that forgiveness is when I give up my right to hurt you for hurting me. And this is one definition, and yeah, most likely it is. And one thing is to give a hard feeling away. Yeah, it's also understanding that whatever happens, it's arrangement. So it's not that that person who offended me was how to say, like a tool in in Krishna's and in the modes of nature's hands. So there is this picture with the modes of nature, like a marionette doll, and with these threads moving the people. So this is what happens when we are doing these sinful activities and offenses. And what about learning lessons and avoiding situations that hurt, harm us? Yeah, I think this we also touched this part, that avoiding situations. So if we can tolerate, then it's nice to tolerate, and when we cannot, then it's better to avoid the situation. And learning lessons is always a possibility. I very much liked Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu had this. He said sometime that our life, the world around us is pregnant with meaning. And I really, really like this, because pregnant means that it's invisible at that point, because, just as a mother who carries the child in the womb, the child is not visible. By due course of time, the child will take birth and will come out. And this is also like what happens with whatever situations we are in. And if we are paying proper attention with proper consciousness, proper knowledge, then we will be able to learn something from it. Sometimes, I learn something about my own faults. But sometimes when someone commits something against me, I learn that, okay, I don't want to do this to others. And this is also some important lesson. So we can always learn something. And whether it's good or bad, so-called good or so-called bad, that happens to us. So the possibility is always there, but we have to really pay attention to that. So I hope that it helps. Okay, I think that maybe we can conclude now. I really, really would like to thank you all for these questions, because personally I'm always very happy when there are questions. It shows that that the topic is interesting for everyone, and that everyone paid attention. So so maybe this discussion was valuable and helped to develop these good qualities. And I think we can conclude now. Shri Devi Mataji, I have some time. Can we call on WhatsApp? Is it good for
Yes.
you?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you
Thank
all
you,
for
Mataji.
joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Namo Namaha. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Wonderful class.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Wonderful
Krishna.
class. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.